The year is 2017. An international conference is taking place in London. Anand Kumar, an aerospace engineer with a seemingly successful career, is called upon the stage to give a talk. A vast audience of foreigners listens to the Indian give a speech in his native language, Hindi. They can interpret his words through headphones that act as translating devices. He begins to talk with pride about his homeland, about how a place which is deemed a third world country has produced CEOs of worldwide companies such as PepsiCo, Unilever, Adobe, MasterCard, Vodafone and Google. Anand points towards his father with immense dignity and announces that his dad, a man who used to sell balloons, now sits among influential people. His claim receives much applause. Thereon, Anand begins to tell a story. The story of a man to whom he and many other Indians owe their accomplishments to. The story of the life of the great Anand Kumar and his students. The tale starts from Patna. It is the year 1996. A large crowd cheers as Anand Kumar receives a Ramanujan Prize, the first position in a debate competition. He is congratulated and praised by the local education minister, Shriram Singh, who promises to help the underprivileged Anand whenever he needs help. Anand Kumar belongs to a lower-class family, but he is a passionate scholar with a brilliant mind. Excited, he makes his way to a local dance class where he watches Supriya, Anand's love interest, as she practices elegant movements. After the class is over, he spends a little time with Supriya. Anand tells her his dream of doing a PhD in math from Oxford and Cambridge for further studies. They have a brief conversation and then Anand leaves in a rush, telling the young maiden that a new math journal must have arrived at BHU, Banaras Hindu University, by now. Anand gives Supriya a love letter and runs to the university. Upon opening it, Supriya is left in a mildly confused state as she finds out the letter contains only numbers, the mathematician's way of expressing his feelings. Anand catches a train to make his way to BHU. He sits on the library floor, solving math problems from his newly discovered foreign journal. He is approached by a librarian and told that outsiders are not allowed in the library. The librarian then proceeds to scold, insult, and push him out of the premises. He then orders a lowly custodian to lead Anand out of the library. The custodian advises Anand to get his own article published in a foreign journal to earn a free lifetime subscription to all such journals he desires. Taking heed to his guidance, the youth makes his way to the post office where his father, Rajendra, works. He posts a letter containing the solution to an extremely difficult, unsolved math problem to Cambridge University. Returning home, Anand Kumar spends quality time with his family. His father asks him to find himself a girl for marriage as he oils his hair. Thus, Anand spends the next few days flirting with Supriya. One fine summer morning, an exhilarated Rajendra hurries home to his family carrying glad tidings. An impressed Professor Richard from Cambridge University has read Anand's papers and has sent an invitation to Anand, granting him admission into the top-class institution. Anand can barely contain his happiness. The first thing he does is visit the scornful librarian at BHU. The student mocks the librarian for his disrespectful attitude as he reveals that he has now been featured in the journals he was once being prevented from reading by the university staff member. As Anand exits the library, he also comes across the custodian that gave him wise counsel. He touches the worker's feet in the Hindu gesture of respect. Anand and his family, his mother, his brother and his father, pass the upcoming week celebrating Anand's achievement and preparing him for his journey. However, the poor family is met with a serious obstacle: affordability. Anand's family supports him completely, but they do not have enough money to send him to England. Despite the circumstances, Anand remains positive that Shriram Singh will deliver on his promise. Rajendra and his son grab a boat and sail far away to the minister's home. The minister is revealed to be a liar and a cheat, only interested in keeping all the money for himself. He breaks his promise of extending a helping hand to Anand in his time of need. Dismayed, the father-son duo returns home with empty pockets. Still, the family does not give up. They try to do everything in their little power, asking for loans. Ultimately, they are defeated at the hands of their poverty. One night, Anand's family is sitting for dinner when Rajendra's body finally succumbs to the stress. The old man dies from a heart attack. The loss of his father is the last straw for Anand. He decides to let go of his dream of going to Cambridge and begins to live life selling snacks, fully embracing his poverty. During his days of selling crackers, Anand Kumar encounters Lalan Singh. Lalan Singh is a subordinate of the education minister, Shriram Singh. He was present on the stage when Anand received the Ramanujan Award. Lalan had also won the same gold medal in his youth. Like his superior Shriram, Lalan too is a selfish, negative character. He approaches Anand only to exploit him for his own benefit. He picks up the poor man in his car and takes him to his office. Lalan tells Anand that he is the founder of the Excellence Coaching Academy that tutors students and prepares them for the entrance exams of IIT, the Indian Institute of Technology. One applicant out of every 100,000 is able to make it to IIT. He explains that the rich are willing to pay anything to get their kids admitted into the prestigious institution. Lalan wants to take advantage of that fact, turning education into a huge money-making business. And for his plans to succeed, he is in desperate need of a brilliant teacher, Anand Kumar. Lalan tempts Anand by pulling out a handful of cash from an envelope, something that the poor youth had never been able to attain. Seeing an escape from his life of hardship and suffering, Anand accepts Lalan's offer and becomes a teacher at the Excellence Coaching Academy. The moment Anand starts working at the Excellence Coaching Academy, its admission rates are doubled. With his new job, Anand's lifestyle also quickly changes into one of luxury and pleasures. He buys an expensive motorcycle. He is able to win over the favor of Supriya's father, a man who previously looked down upon Anand due to his poverty. Anand is also able to support his mother, Jayanti, and his brother, Pranav now. Telling Jayanti to rest, he hires a maid to look over the domestic chores of his household. He buys Pranav and himself stylish watches. Naturally, being the best of the best, Anand's students also adore him as a teacher, and they only want to study under his tutelage. Amidst the leisure of his present way of living, Anand quickly forgets where he came from, an impoverished household. But that is about to change. One fateful night, when he leaves a lavish party thrown by Lalan Singh, Anand's heart is stirred by the words of a taxi driver. The taxi driver says that only sons of kings are destined to be kings in this world. Anand feels disturbed as he is reminded of Rajendra's words that were the total opposite of the taxi driver's exclamation. Rajendra used to imply that the times have changed, that in this era it is possible for poor people like Anand, who come from nothing, to establish themselves into something great. Anand realizes the vast disparity in the education system, where only the rich can afford a quality education. Henceforth, Anand reaches a turning point in his life. He discovers his true purpose, and he is determined to live a life fulfilling that purpose, providing free education to the poor who deserve it, no matter what the cost is. It is at this point that he decides to leave the Excellence Coaching Academy. The following morning, Anand Kumar publishes pamphlets of his own tuition center. He spreads the news of his intention to enable the free education of the poor across all of India. Anand now dedicates all the resources he owns for the establishment of his academy. Along with his brother, he sells all his belongings, from his clothes to his television to his watches, all to ensure a proper learning environment for his lower-class pupils. Next, he buys a compound of land to build his school upon. Anand intends to take complete responsibility of his students, including the expenses of their housing, meals, clothing, books, water, and electricity. Unfortunately, his plans come at a cost. To run his school successfully, Anand must reduce himself to his former financial state, especially because he has quit his high-paying job. One morning, Supriya, rage coursing through her veins, storms his living quarters. She argues that Anand has wasted all the progress the couple had made to win her father's favor. She claims that she has to pay the price of his actions, losing her one true love, Anand. Supriya's father wants to marry her off to an IAS officer, Purushottam, and there is nothing she can do about it since Anand no longer has any socioeconomic standing left. Crying, she hands back his love letter and leaves, severing all ties with him. Unable to meet eyes with her, Anand remains quiet. When she is gone, he shifts his focus on the remaining work he needs to do in regard to building the school. The coming days, Anand toils to construct his school while his potential poor students from all over India resolve to reach his center after getting the news about it. With the limited assets he has, Anand decides that his school can only manage at a capacity of 30 students. Pranav disagrees and fears that the cost might be too much to handle, but Anand is determined to try. A few days later, Anand and his brother are found standing atop the balcony of their school looking down at the passionate, blooming minds that have traversed the land to be given the chance of a quality education. That day, it's noon when Anand comes walking across his classroom of 30, carrying a stack of papers. A poor kid comes from outside asking for permission to be let in. Anand grants it and the kid begs the teacher to let him join the classroom as well. Anand dismisses him politely as the class capacity has been reached. However, he consoles the boy and asks him to work hard and try joining next year. Then, the teacher conducts an ice-breaking session to acquaint himself with his new students. Just as he is about to start the day's lesson, he is cut short by Lalan Singh's sudden appearance inside his classroom. The sole purpose of Lalan's visit is to taunt Anand and his students, and to lull him into returning to the Excellence Coaching Academy by offering him twice his previous salary. When Anand declines his offer, Lalan reminds him of the mentality of the rich, that only a king's son can become a king. Lalan proceeds to mock Anand's pupils by calling them racehorses with broken legs that perform in a derby. In open defiance of all Lalan stands for, Anand defends his students' honor by proclaiming that it is these very damaged racehorses that will win the derby. And so, Lalan leaves, challenging Anand and his small group of children to make it to IIT. Later that night, infuriated by Lalan's words, Anand leaves his dinner mid-meal and visits the student quarters where the 30 kids now reside under his care. Seeing that they have been spooked by Lalan's misbehavior, the teacher gives his little apprentices a motivational speech. He explains that the rich will become an obstacle in their path by digging ditches for them. But the rich have made a grave error, as by digging those very ditches he has taught the kids to jump. He then asks the kids one by one as he shouts their dream career paths, that are they brave enough to make that leap of faith. With renewed vigor, all the students begin to chant that they will take the leap. The succeeding morning, Anand calls out the kids to gather in front of him. He gives them 10 seconds to shake hands with each other and to introduce themselves to one another. Once they are done, he tests their math by asking them how many handshakes there were in total. Unable to get a correct answer out of them immediately, he warns the children that they have 8 months left until the IIT entrance exam. Thus, he instructs the kids to find math and general science problems everywhere they look, from real-life examples such as the spinning of a fan, the flying technique of a bird, and the crackling mechanism of lightning. Thereafter, he spends the next few days teaching the students in a remarkable way. The students are awed and fascinated by his lessons. Meanwhile, Anand receives death threats by scumbags hired by Lalan, but they are all worthless as his resolve is too great. Ignoring their warnings, Anand continues his lessons. The students, as he had hoped, display an impressive amount of academic improvement as his lessons continue. The days pass and an angry Lalan continues to be a thorn in Anand's path. He orders one of his underlings to cut the electrical power supply to the school. However, after learning from a mind as genius as Anand's, they groom and develop smartness of their own. The students are able to build a power supply of their own, using what limited resources they have, rekindling the school. Next, Lalan uses his influence to pit a crowd against Anand. The crowd, led by a woman, shows up outside the school. The woman is fooled and ridiculed by Anand, who urges the crowd to at least use their brains if they're committing such low acts. Eventually, the crowd disperses. Unwavering in their resolve, Anand's class continues to flourish under his guidance. With affection and pride in his eyes, he looks at his class and relishes their transformation from unconfident and underprepared to confident and successful individuals. Sadly, Anand is still unable to overcome one problem, an obstacle that has troubled him his entire life: financial constraints. Due to a lack of funding, the children and the school are starting to suffer as their basic needs, such as the provision of food, are hardly being met. Failing to get a loan from the bank, in his despair, Anand goes to the place he dreads the most for help as a last resort: Lalan Singh's office. Taking advantage of Anand's proud personality, Lalan gives him an ultimatum to host a competition between the students of Excellence Academy and his 30 disciples. If Anand's team emerges victorious, Lalan promises to pay for all food expenses for Anand's academy. But should the team lose, Anand would have to give up teaching at his school and return back to teaching at the Excellence Academy. Having no choice as he has 30 mouths to feed and no money, Anand accepts the challenge. The two rivals set Aya's officer Purushottam, who happens to be Supriya's husband, as the arbitrator in the matter, and they sign a written legal agreement setting the terms of the competition, compelling Anand to abide by the rules should his students lose. The day of the competition arrives soon. The students and Anand's worst nightmares come true. They lose the competition. Lalan is overjoyed. He invites Anand to announce that he is to rejoin Excellence Academy and abandon his school according to the terms of the agreement. However, before Anand gives up his life's work on the stage, he is stopped by Raghunath, a journalist in Anand's favor. It turns out that Supriya and Raghunath worked together in secret to get rid of the document that pressurized Anand to live up to his end of the deal. As the papers are nowhere to be found, Anand publicly denies abandoning his students and his school and marches away, grateful to Supriya and Raghunath for supporting their cause. Upon the students' return to their school, Anand confronts them angrily, sensing that they lost the competition due to a lack of confidence. The students are still afraid to be judged by the world of the rich. To deal with this problem, he orders them to speak in English outside the Excellence Academy for 15 to 20 minutes on the coming day of the Holi. The activity proves beneficial for the students as they gain the final boost in confidence that they needed to envision themselves acing the IIT entrance exams. Exhausting all their options, Lalan and Shriram Singh stoop to the lowest level, plotting to murder Anand and his students to prevent them from appearing in the IIT examinations. It is nighttime when Raghunath meets Anand and Pranav to warn them of their enemy's plans. Pranav tries asking the police for protection, but his efforts are in vain. Out of choices, Pranav takes matters into his own hands and steals a rifle at a local carnival to protect his brother. However, Pranav is too late to arrive to his brother's side. That night, he finds Anand shot in the torso by two of Lalan's henchmen. On the verge of death, Anand is rushed to the hospital by Pranav, Jayanti and the students. When word reaches the hospital that his murderers are coming there to finish the job, Anand tells his students to use their knowledge to defeat the goons sent by Shriram, while he is treated by the hospital staff. The students unite, utilize their understanding of different concepts and subjects, and beat the goons. Anand is treated successfully and recuperates. Finally, after a seemingly endless amount of struggle, the fated day of the IIT entrance examination is here. Still worn out by all the fighting from the previous day, the students push through their drowsiness and give the exam. A short period later, the date of the results is upon the kids. It is a rainy day. Anand and his students close their eyes and meditate before viewing the results. At last, teacher and students both enjoy the fruits of their long labor. All 30 kids pass and are admitted into IIT. Overwhelmed with emotion, Pranav and Anand are unable to hold back the overflowing tears of happiness from their eyes. Together, Anand and his star students celebrate as they drench themselves in the downpour, jumping and cheering on. The end.